So welcome to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel. My name's Connor. I'm joined today by Ryan Ochoa. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I know we had a little small talk right before, but I'm so excited. Hello, everybody that's watching this. I really appreciate all of these interviews, and I value everybody's time. I know time is of essence, and especially these days, I know how valuable time is for everybody. So I appreciate you reaching out and taking the time and having me on. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I know like people will know you as an actor. You've been acting for a while, but I suppose like to go back in time, so to speak, like who or what first inspired you to start acting?
Well, that's a good question, but I guess I should start with my bio that's, semi out there. A lot of people know this, but
Mm.
my family are really, really big into WWE. And
Oh, okay.
we grew up watching wrestling and still watch it to this day.
Mm.
A lot of people know that. But at the end of the day, aside from wrestling, they're actors and they're entertainers, and
Mm.
especially the ones that have had, let's say, global influence to this day. We're
Right.
talking, Dwayne Johnson, John Cena, Stone
Steve
Cold Steve
Austin.
Austin,
Yeah.
um, Brock Lesnar is probably my favorite now, but
Right.
Roman. I mean, all these guys, they're actors. They're playing a role. It's
Yeah.
funny because I was actually just sent, and I'll get into this, but I was just sent a video the other day from one of my family members of Stephanie McMahon doing a interview with Chris Jericho, and she talked
Right.
about how I used to be an ambassador for the There Be a Star program when they
Okay.
would do all the school rallies. Well,
Mm.
anyway, she talks she talked in the interview about how she is playing a role. She's not a bully in real life, she's acting.
Mm.
And then she mentioned, she's like, yeah, one of our ambassadors, Ryan Ochoa, also talks about how he was on Disney and Nickelodeon, and he played a bully. So with all of that being said, it's crazy how it kind of came full circle, because the reason that I started was because I used to walk around the house when I was 5, 6 years old, impersonating these wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I don't know if it was me that realized it or my mom and dad, but I was an entertainer. I mean, if I hope that I give off the impression that when people meet me, they know I'm a ball of energy. I call myself the Energizer Bunny, the night owl.
Mm.
Um, I feel like this industry was, I had to walk into this industry, and um, I have to say, years later, it's not just been, it's not a job. It's who I am, So I love it and I embrace it. But as I said, I love talking, I love explaining my answers, and
Mm.
that's the truth, is that I was, I love WWE, and I feel like I what I didn't like the wrestling side of it, but I did love the entertainment side.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at the at the core of it that they're telling stories, and like they have the baby face, heel. If you like boil it down, it's good guy, bad guy, and yeah,
Which is what is in a movie.
yeah.
Are you the good guy in the movie, or are you the bad guy? A lot of people know I've played the villain many times. My entire
You do it well.
teenage years, I
Mm.
was the villain on
Mm.
everything. Um, and now, in the film that I'm working on right now, I'm the semi good guy. How
Mm.
I am. I'm the protagonist. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
nice, but again, you're right. It's Are you the heel or are you the face?
Mm.
So
Ab- Absolutely. And I suppose if we're talking about like, like heelish characters you played in your past, I know like one big example would be Chuck Chambers on iCarly. And as I was like, that was a very smooth, like, segue into that question, I know. But yeah, I was saying to you before we started the recording that in terms of like watching the sitcom iCarly, like the one on Nickelodeon, I got to it a little bit later. It's like around the time when you were first popping up on that version of it was when I started watching the show. And I suppose like all these years later, like how was you kind of going back to that character and that cast and that world?
I guess I'm gonna start off with, I look much different than the Chuck people saw.
Mm.
And we'll get into this thing. I had to point it out at the at least near the beginning. But there's a reason. Obviously, a lot of people already know. But the cool thing about this, and again, I can talk about this for hours. I've done, a lot of interviews about this, because it was the one thing that I was waiting for. It was the one thing that I really, really tried to make happen. And a lot of people know that from my TikTok and my Instagram, all the videos and that I made. And this was before the revival even was announced.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was doing videos as Chuck because it was a part of who I am. I mean, maybe people don't think about this or actually realize this, but I was a kid. I was a kid
Yeah.
on a show that I loved watching. And years later, it's like I had the opportunity now to embrace it as a man,
Yeah.
as an adult. And there's something special there, because it was something that was, it's just like it'll live on forever.
Yeah.
So aside from just going back, that's why I loved the role. Or the roles, we're talking iCarly and Pair of Kings. That's why I ended up, producing and starring in Save the Island. I don't know if you've seen that.
Right.
These were characters that, yeah, I had the honor to play them, but this was my childhood. This was when people say like, "Oh, I played sports in high school," or I was in band, and I didn't have any time to do that. I was characters on TV that we all watched.
Yeah.
So now, years later, how do you like embrace that even more? Well, instead of just like forgetting about it, I wanted people to know it's still part of me, like I still carry those roles into the future, and I always will. So with all that being said, when I got that phone call, it was surreal.
Yeah.
It was like, how cool is this? Like, and then like when the trailer, it's funny because I haven't been able to talk much about it because I've,
Sure.
been really busy
Yeah.
with this
Very
other
busy.
stuff. But so this is like for the first time, people really kind of hearing my opinions on everything of how it all happened. But when the announcement promo for season 2 dropped, they even said, and one of the part of the promo was iconic, and then I was just in the little iconic section, and
Yeah.
it's true, like it was something that it's almost so surreal that you just can't put it into words. That, wow, almost 15 years later, I get to reprise a role.
I
15 years
know.
later, that's over half my
Yeah.
life. That's
Right.
over half my age, and I get to have the honor and the opportunity just to step foot back in with not only extremely talented people, but in a workplace that I grew up in. I
Yeah.
really did. So if that answers your question,
Right. No,
I
I
hope it
mean,
does. But it
yeah.
really is, and it's something like I even did a little post about it when it was announced that, wow, I'm so excited, blah blah. But
Yeah.
truthfully, I haven't even done a post on Instagram about it actually being out, because I really don't know how to put it into words. It's such a
Yeah.
special feeling. It'll come to me, and when it does, I'll know how to express it. But it was such a fun experience, and being with them, man, like it was truly remarkable, and it was like it was exactly what I needed at the time. It really
Yeah.
was. And hey, if that was the end of it, I'm so glad to say that it happened. But again, everybody knows of this whole thing I just said. I'm willing to go back. I'm willing to embrace it even more, because it's it's quite contagious, actually. And
Yeah.
especially, I'll just end with this, especially for a cast, a crew, and a show
Mm.
that so many people love and
Mm.
enjoy. It
Yeah.
is, it will to this day probably be the biggest Nickelodeon show ever, iCarly,
Yeah.
which is why they brought it back. So just to be a part of that, I'm extremely grateful.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've always wondered this actually with the way that Chuck came into the original show. Was he always planned to be like a recurring character, or did that have anything to do with what you were doing, or like the response from the audience? Like, how did that come about that you came back for more episodes?
Nope, it was a one episode. I was hired as a co-star for the
Mm.
one episode, and um I don't I can't be the one to tell you whether it was fan reactions that wanted to see more, or if it was production that
Mm.
I might never know the answer to that.
Right, fair
But
enough.
years later, and seeing the the feedback and the love on TikTok and Instagram and all my social media is about Chuck this, Chuck that.
Mm.
Um, you gotta semi just accept that it was just a great character that was written,
Mm.
and I'm just I'm lucky to say that it was me.
Yeah, and like I know, obviously there's been, I guess, a bit of a gap between you like shooting your scenes for the revival and it coming out on Paramount Plus. So was keeping the secret difficult until like they announced it?
Yes, it was so
Mm.
hard. um this I'll just say this and I'll just keep it short with this one, but I actually planned it ahead of time. The
Mm.
day that my first day of shooting, of actually on camera,
Yeah,
I planned it ahead of time that I was going to go to hair and makeup wearing a Project Rock shirt. Project Rock is Dwayne Johnson's collaboration with Under Armour.
yeah.
And I was like, hey, I can wear that. People know I wear that. I'll just wear that to hair and makeup. I'll have them do my hair and makeup, and then I'll change into my wardrobe after, just so I can post that I
Mm.
was on set filming something. I
Yeah.
never gave anything away. I never said what I
Wow.
was filming, what I was doing. But it's funny
Mm.
that there were a few, I'm not saying a lot, there were a
People
few
guessed.
comments that people said, iCarly revival? iCarly? Please tell me it's iCarly. But it's what I
And
mean,
they were right.
they were right with that post, yes.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that because it was already announced, it was an idea. Obviously, people probably were assuming, hey, that's
Sure.
maybe that's what it is. Hopefully that's what it is.
Mm.
Again, it could have been anything, I mean, I just got announced filming this movie right now, so
Yeah.
it could have been that, you know what I mean? So,
Mm.
but point being is, I knew I was going to have to keep it a secret for months, which
Mm.
another reason why I didn't quite post as much. I just tried to stay off of Instagram, like in that aspect. I would post on my stories, but man, it was hard. It was really hard. But I definitely milked it. I definitely said, "Oh my gosh, I got big news. I got this big news. I can't wait. You guys are going to go crazy." So
Mm.
obviously I was hinting, but
Yeah.
again, it,
Yeah.
it could have been anything. It
Yeah,
really
for
could have been
sure.
anything. But man, the day it was now announced is
Mm.
actually a cool day. Listen to this. The day that it was announced,
Yeah,
I haven't talked about this, but the day season 2 came out that you saw Chuck, where people knew I was coming back.
for sure. Yeah.
I went to Instagram and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I bet you people are like going crazy, right?"
Mhm.
Not only did I have a bunch of iCarlys, but the
Mm.
day before, I actually was well, not me necessarily, but there was a show, which I don't know if you know about this. Have you heard about Guardians of Justice on Netflix?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah,
So
heard the
I'm
name.
actually in that show.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The day
Sure.
before iCarly season 2 promo was released, I didn't know this because it was a different the name we shot was actually a different name. It wasn't
Right.
called Guardians of Justice. Well, that show premiered on Netflix, or yeah, released. It was released on Netflix the day
Yeah.
before, and I hadn't been on Instagram in 24 hours. So I
Mm.
went and I just had a flood of, oh my gosh, you're in iCarly, and then it's like, no way, you're in Guardians of Justice. It was just so overwhelming in the
Insane.
best way. I was like, are you kidding me? This is amazing, you know? Guardians of Justice just released on Netflix. I was just announced on iCarly reboot. And then secretly, I was starting to film this movie literally 3 days later.
Right.
3 days later. It was like the most epic week. I mean, only your interview is really gonna, you know, show all of this. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a really memorable week for me.
Absolutely. And I know kind of like from a storytelling perspective on iCarly that other, you know, like villains, so to speak, or antagonists that came back have been kind of like reformed or like redeemed themselves. Whereas I don't think necessarily Chuck went down that, you know, path. So like, were you happy with that? Or like, would you like to see like a direction where kind of, you know, Chuck followed the same kind of like path as the other villains who came back?
No, definitely not. I don't think he should follow the same path. And I think that's why maybe not the role, but for me, why I loved it so much, because you don't know. You really never know with Chuck. And that's the exciting part with his character. That's what I loved about it. For example, one of my favorite episodes, I can't say this, that I was in was I Find Lubert's Lost Love, which is when Chuck and Spencer end up building their little friendship, being the building watch patrolman.
Yeah, I remember.
And I loved filming that episode. So that was a fun one. But again, you thought these guys were buddies, but secretly Chuck was stealing the remotes. You know what I mean? Like it was hilarious. But for a split second, you were like, is this really him? Is this really are we really about to see a friendship grow? And then the next episode was the last episode that I was in.
Yeah.
Before I ended up getting Pair of Kings. But
sure.
No, like it's interesting because I've had many talks with my brothers on, Ryan, if they came to you and they asked you, what do you think Chuck should do? Where do you think Chuck is these days? I have so many ideas that it was really hard to actually accept this is what it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's so much. For example, in the promo video that I've been seeing everywhere now, I talked about it was the behind the scenes video. They were like, where do you think Chuck is from back then to now? I said, well, definitely he hit the weights a lot just to wait for that one day to get back at Spencer. And it's true, like just my physical fitness journey that I've had over the years, that's something that could be explored, and there's just so many different things that we could, have fun with, you know what I mean? So to really just like end it or just resolve it with me and Spencer, or Chuck and Spencer, I don't know. I think I liked how they just kind of left it open in the air, And it's funny. I just posted a thing yesterday, literally a few hours ago. Actually, it was like in the middle of the night, saying, "Do you think this is the end for the or where do you or I said, do you think the Spencer Chuck rivalry? That's what Jerry Trainer said. Spencer Chuck rivalry is over. Do you think it's over? I don't know. I don't know."
Yeah, and I suppose this is a question that out of context could sound a bit like bad, like to say, but like of all, your appearances across like both shows, like what was your favorite horrible thing you had to pretend to do to Jerry Trainer?
Let me think. I'm going back. I think the most memorable, I can't say favorite because I loved them all. They were all so different. For example, the cupcake in the last episode that I was in, or that I filmed, I'm not sure if it was the last episode aired, but the cupcake episode, that I almost didn't think that was a big one, until I saw the fan reactions from it.
Yeah.
They loved it, which is why we brought it back for the revival.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
have cupcakes. I thought, well, which we did use in this as well. It's funny, is the suspicious liquid.
Liquid. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the squirt gun is literally iconic. That whole gag that we did is so memorable to this day. I mean, you look at TikTok, and I was doing a bunch of series of those saying, all right, finally, I'm going to tell you what was in the squirt gun. And then something happened.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm watching the Super Bowl, but I'm still going to tell you what was in the squirt gun, and cuts out.
Cut. Yeah.
Because it's just one thing that everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
And if it's something that, rare, that people enjoy, you gotta milk it. It's something that you have to do, which is why, oh, Spencer, take a sip of water. I don't want to give away too much if they haven't seen it yet, but he drinks the water in the revival, and it's hilarious. It's just funny. So again, I could talk for hours about it, and just like people really could just hear my opinion about everything, because I mean, I really love the revival. I love the fact that people still wanted to see Chuck. I love what the original show stood for.
Yeah.
Just a lot. I really have a very positive opinion / experiences to share. And to end this, I will say that at the end of the day, I'm in a position, thankfully, where I really did want to come back, but I was also at a time of my life where I was really, really busy, which is why, maybe this is why, I don't really know, but I actually really wanted to be in more. That's the truth. I really wanted to be in more in the revival, but again, they always say, I've been saying this a lot, recently, less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more. If I feel like for the first time after 15 years to see me come back, if I was just the entire episode, it might not have been as cool. Who knows? We won't know because we didn't see it.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of what happened. You just got a little bit of Chuck. Maybe that was it. Maybe not. We don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know at least one person has done this, because I've actually seen the video. Maybe more people have, but they did like a parallel of like, the young Chuck from the original show, and then kind of like, doing the as you were saying, like the version of it in the revivals, obviously, like, with the squirt gun and with the other stuff. So like, I mean, for you, I don't know if you've seen anything like that, but would you find that bizarre to kind of look at these two versions of yourself, kind of like, one and then the other?
Cool. That's a deep one. That's a deep question.
It's a doozy.
Very, I would say very, yeah, it's one of those things where you start getting into, like, I don't want to get all like, intense or make this too serious, but you really start thinking about life, and that aspect, not even about the character. I start thinking about, like, man, where did all those years go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I remember where I was in life. I was a middle school student.
Right.
I was in middle school. I was going to school in the daytime and leaving early to go to auditions. And I remember walking into the room for the very first time to audition for iCarly.
Yeah.
And then you just think, all these years later, that one encounter that I had in that room, look at what it did. That's what I think of,
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to get like all too intense or anything, but that's truthfully, like, to really put it into words, like, that's what I think of. And that's why I am who I am, because I just don't take any moment for granted, you know? Like, I'm grateful for every single thing, every opportunity, because again, I mean, this is the truth behind it is, what if the person right after me walked in and he could have been Chuck,
Oh yeah, well,
and we wouldn't be
uh,
having this conversation right now. Maybe we would, maybe
mm,
we wouldn't. But when I look at that little boy, I like, you know, I applaud him. You know, I applaud that young Ryan that I see in these photos, because I'm like, man, dude, he's like, I look up to that kid. You know what I mean? He's
mm,
a kid. He was a sixth grade student balancing school and life and friendships and girlfriends and work and dialogue and being on a hit show, and like, you know, that's what I think of. And now it's just like, I think back, I'm like, dude, you have to keep up with that kid. You
yeah,
know? And yeah, so I hope that's a good answer, but it's
no, it's a great answer.
it really makes me think of things like that, you know, and
Mm,
that I have I just want to make that kid proud because he made me proud, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So, and I hope that doesn't sound weird, like I'm, you know, applauding, you know, you know, myself, because I'm not. I'm just applauding the
right,
fact that I was able to hold it all together. Now
mm,
there's no excuse why I can't now, you know?
yeah,
So being able to go back and do it, like, that's what I brought to the
mm,
role and to the experience, now that I just got to sat back and just embrace it, you know?
mm. Yeah, and actually, this is a bit of a side note, but it's something I remembered that I recently spoke to Jaden Triplett, who's on the revival as Millicent, you know,
Oh
Freddie's
yeah, of course.
stepdaughter. Yeah, I spoke to her recently, and she mentioned to me that like your episode that you were in was her favorite episode because of like the fact that like you guys came back, and like we were both kind of saying because she went back to watch the original show, obviously, because she was born while that show was on. She was born like 2010, 2011. But like but we were both saying that that episode kind of reminded us of the original show, and obviously you guys being there, you know, the three of you that came back had a lot to do with that, for sure.
That's amazing. And that's so cool hearing, because um I'm so happy for her.
Mm.
And you know, truthfully, I actually didn't get to work. I didn't work with her.
Yeah,
She was in the
different
other
scenes.
storyline, the other
Yeah.
scene. But I did see her on the set, but I didn't see her a lot because she was in school.
Mm.
So when I was on set, she was in school. So I didn't really like get to know her, you know, while I was there.
Yeah.
But from the few moments like during run throughs, she she's in a good place. She's a hard worker. She's
Mm.
funny, and she's surrounded by some of the best. You know,
Yeah.
so she's in really good hands. And hearing that makes me happy, because I know her and I didn't really get to have too many conversations like that. So that's cool
Mm.
hearing.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we've talked a lot about Chuck, obviously, with the recent return, you know, obvious reasons. But like your other major kids TV show villain, which I don't know how many people can say they have two kids TV show villains they play, but you know, your other one, Lanny, obviously on Para Kings for Disney XD. I suppose before like the whole revival for iCarly, like which of the two would people kind of mention to you more or like recognize you like as the most before the whole like revival thing for iCarly?
I'm not even gonna like try to elongate the question or
Hmm.
the answer,
Right.
but I'll just say this: the the truth is, the facts here, not only the truth, the facts here, that
Hmm.
I did 10 times as many episodes as iCarly, or maybe more than that. It's only 50. I did more than that. Um, I was in every episode of Pair of Kings, every
Yeah.
single episode produced,
Series regular. Yeah.
series regular, but still, Chuck,
Hmm.
Chuck is still, I mean, I'm just thinking of this experience the other day. I was in, I was at a diner in Los Angeles a few nights ago with a few of our friends that were in town, and it
Hmm.
was 12 a.m. It was midnight. We just left their show they just had. I walk in and just a, group of like 5, I can't say they were teenagers, but they might even been maybe 17, 18, 19 years old.
Mm.
As soon as I walk in, all of them, about 5 of them just come to the door and they're like, "Oh my God, Ryan Ochoa, you're Chuck. You're Chuck." It's just, it's crazy. And it goes back to our last question, your last question about, the year, gap.
Yeah, parallel. Yeah.
It's really mind blowing to me that they can recognize me, especially with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This. I'm like, how do I look like the same kid? But yeah, I mean, he's just, Chuck is, I mean, we're talking millions and millions of people watched iCarly,
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, so I mean, as crazy as it is, I loved, I loved Pair of Kings. Everybody knows that. I mean, it was my favorite experience, maybe people say.
Yeah.
People try to get that out of me. It was. I mean, I'm family with so many people still from that show. I was there every day for 4 years of my life. I was there. I was with my Pair of Kings family more than my own family,
Right.
for my entire high school years. But anyway, so as much as I would say I wished it was Lanny, maybe Chuck is just
He's up there.
He's up there.
Yeah, well, for sure. I remember at the time the whole thing with Pair of Kings is that there's a few of you coming from other popular kids shows at that time, and you're all ending up on this show together. Obviously, Hannah Montana, Sweet Life, and you coming from iCarly. So was that a big deal at the time that it was like all of you kind of coming together on this one show? Like, obviously, I imagine fans of the other shows would be inclined to watch Pair of Kings to see you guys again. Was that something that was ever brought up or thought about?
Oh, absolutely. I would say it was. That's a great question, because I don't think I've ever been asked that. But absolutely. I mean, I'm not even saying for that show, but it's what they're still doing now. Maybe not as much as before, but you think about, I mean, I just worked with Jason Earls on my film, which we'll talk about, but Jason Earls he went from Hannah to Kicking It.
Yeah.
They were doing that a lot. But especially with your Kings, the Pair of Kings was Mitchell and Doc.
Yeah.
They were both on huge shows together. So, or not at the same time, but they were both on huge shows, Sweet Life and Hannah, like you said. And it was almost like a dream. What if we brought these two iconic actors, Disney actors, together, and look at the show they made, I mean, people say, oh yeah, we were a team, but the show was called Pair of Kings. They were a insanely fantastic dynamic duo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And people said, oh yeah, you came from iCarly. I already had the villain, you know what I mean? I wanted to, obviously, Lanny was definitely different than Chuck, and people always ask me like, what's the difference between them? But I love acting, so I love making all my characters different, I mean, I tried to at least. And especially when you're like, I didn't want to just get stereotyped as, oh, he's just the bad guy. No, I'm not just the bad guy. There's a method behind who Chuck is, who Lanny is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not the same person. And that's what I wanted to bring, to show people, to show the audience that, hey, look, me from this, but I want to make this character memorable too,
Absolutely.
And that's why I really I still, to this day, I love Lanny. I really do.
Yeah.
I love Lanny. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think definitely you can see like what he has in common with Chuck, obviously both being kind of like the villains on that show. But I think just, goals is completely different. and like, different, obviously setting. And yeah, I mean, I can see why people would kind of compare them, but at the same time, they couldn't be more different. Personally, I think so anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously you mentioned your film that you've co-written. I believe it's called Second Chances. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Sorry, I got it just like soon as you said it, man, I just like, oh man, I got chills. It just, oh man. Wow.
mm,
Yeah, it's been yeah, anyway, go
yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you
So
why.
yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, that was something called Second Chances, and it's a little bit kind of like knowing or like reflective on people's experiences. Obviously, you're playing like a former teen star, and obviously, there's a lot of famous instances of, I think, maybe kind of what you're trying to portray, right? I would imagine in the film. So, like, why was that a story you wanted to tell?
Okay, this is a great question. I'm gonna be selective with my answer
Yeah,
to
be
not give
as
away
vague
too
as
much.
you need to be. Yeah,
And because again, it just got announced. We're
yeah,
still um but from yes, the story that I wanted to tell um with my co-writer Steve
yeah,
um was, and it's perfect to segue into this after what we just talked about with Chuck and
sure,
Lanny,
yeah.
because I'm not saying and this is what down the road I'll obviously end up doing more, like when it actually is getting released and
Sure.
stuff.
And
But
there's more you can say. Yeah.
and there's more than, well, I mean, not even necessarily that, just the fact
Oh,
of when people actually see it, a trailer and see more about it.
sure.
Um, the main thing is we don't want people to think like, oh, this is what Ryan feels his life is like now, because it's not that. But it's
Sure. Yeah.
definitely loosely based
Mm.
on, you know, the comedic, again, being selective, the
Mm.
comedic um situation and
Yeah.
experiences that I've had over the years.
Mm.
Um and obviously exaggerated, way
Yeah.
exaggerated.
Mm.
Because I would just say this, in the description that Deadline announced, they
Yeah.
said down and out teen star.
Yeah.
Well, when
Yeah.
people see that, just like you did, Connor, you immediately thought, is he talking about himself?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a down and out teen star,
Sure. Sure.
but again, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Uh, and when people see it, they will be like, I get it.
Mm.
That's what I want people to see is I get it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And
So
obviously, oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just oh, go ahead. I'll tell you after.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you mentioned Jason Earls being part of the cast. Obviously, that Deadline announcement you mentioned, and I know Hayden Biley, Zachary Gordon, and some of the other people. And it mentioned that, I think you've worked with some of these people. And like, I suppose maybe could you talk about how, like, you can't, some of the people who were in the film, like how they came to be a part of it?
Yeah, so wow, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Mm,
Um I'll tell you something that me and Jason actually recently talked about on set was
sure.
him and I, as with everybody else, we've made a lot of friends in the industry over the years.
Mm,
Just it's the luxury of this industry, I would say. It's one of my favorite things about the industry. I've been I mean, last night I posted on my story a photo with me and Gino Seegers, who's also in the movie,
yeah.
who
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked with on Pair of Kings, who
Yeah.
we actually have another secret project which I talked about, and that's in the works.
Sure.
I can't talk about it. The Only he can eventually.
Yeah.
But
You
we did
played
another
obviously
project, and now
Mason,
we have
right?
this.
For yeah. No, I was saying for any like pair of Kings fans who are watching, he played Mason, just in case they're not sure who
He
that
played
is.
Mason. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. No, my bad. I should have said that.
Mm,
He played Mason. Then we've done Then we did Save the Island. While we were doing Save the Island, we did something else on his behalf that he asked me to join, and then I got him in this film.
Yeah.
And so going back to what I said about the luxury, you don't just become friends with these actors and actresses. You become family. I mean, and this movie in particular sums up every project that I did that I've done in my career before this, because you're with these people for so long that you have no choice but to either connect with them, dislike them, carry them into your future, or never talk to them again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's not me. Again, going back to, I'm seriously still to this day friends with so many of my cast and crew. Not just cast, but crew. We're talking people that you never even think like, wow, you still talk to that person? I'm like, yeah, like we talk like probably every few weeks. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Similar to like that. Now, with that being said, that's what this movie was going to be for me. This was going to be my ultimate goal, which again, I'm probably going to talk about this a bunch over the next year and a half, 2 years. I wanted to do something that was so rare.
Yeah.
People could say this has never been done before.
Right.
I wanted to break barriers with a film so big, yet so small at the same time, that people will literally look at this movie and say, how the F did they do this? How did they do this?
Yeah.
But with all that being said, doesn't matter who I'm friends with, doesn't matter who, is or behind me / believes in me. It all comes down to what product and what story are you telling? I knew the only way you were going to recruit not just my family,
right,
but my parents to help me make this happen. One of my best friends, Dave, who is the biggest first assistant director in Hollywood to direct this, which I told him from the beginning, it had to be him. I didn't know how we were going to pull it off, but we made it happen. But then all of my friends who have resumes that just, they speak for themselves.
yeah,
How was I going to bring all of that together? I needed to write an amazing script, something that people just flipped out about. And instead of saying, oh, I took my time, whatever, I just knew that I had to make something that was special, that people were going to be like, wow, I need to be in this. And, I'm not saying it is a wow, because we won't know until the movie obviously is released.
sure.
But based off that Deadline article, that was my first confirmation that just had me go, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This, and it might sound corny or not, but this experience has truthfully, and I could say, it has opened up my eyes to so much, Connor. It has within months changed my life so much.
Yeah.
And it has really reminded me to not just the actor and the person that I want to be, but just like the friend, the brother, the son, the co-star, to every single person a part of this. Because when people see this movie, it's so special what we're making, and I can't really put it into words yet. I'm trying my best right now. But we seriously have built such a strong and positive and loving film family that people aren't going to believe what we're making. And it's truthfully, like, obviously you can tell now from just this question how passionate I am about this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, again, I have to
100%.
be, because it's literally what I am spending 150% of my time doing right now. I'm so invested into this,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want it any other way. Honestly,
Mm.
I'm so I can't say I've never been so happy, but it's up there. The way I feel right now and the way I've been feeling, man, I'm just so I wake up just happy. I wake up with a smile on my face. I wake up positive, motivated, and it's I just have to accept that it's just the people that I've been surrounded by the past few months have really had a really strong and great impact in my life right now. And I only hope that the final product shows everything that I just said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was wondering, obviously, you co-wrote the screenplay, and had you like written a script before, or had you like read enough that was a good starting point for you to kind of know like how to go about doing it, if that makes sense?
I'm not gonna be like, just like push off the question and say, oh well, this was my I didn't know.
Mm.
Or just like, oh, I guess I don't know.
Mm.
To answer that like with the most honest and right answer, that's what I want. I want to answer with the right answer.
Sure.
Um, I have written I have written a lot of narratives. I mean, not full features though.
Mm.
Um, I wrote my brothers and I wrote all of our music videos, which they were all the first six were all continuous movie stories.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking music videos. I mean, there was a lot of movie stories. Save the Island was another big one that kind of
Mm.
opened up my eyes. But I would say the biggest influence that I had was a TV show that my brothers and I made that we pitched a long time ago to
Mm.
Disney and Nickelodeon. Um, and the with what happened with that and the feedback and the positive feedback from everybody, including the networks that read it, I knew that there was potential. Not saying we
Mm.
were gonna be like I was gonna be an amazing writer, but
Yeah.
myself my all of the four Ochoa boys wrote it. As these Ochoa boys right there, that's our logo. All
Oh,
four
nice.
Ochoa
That's cool.
boys had the story, wrote
Mm.
the story and the structure. But myself and my older brother Rick, who's like my writing partner always, we
Sure.
wrote the
Sure.
actual show, the script of the show.
Mm.
Him and I, 95% of it. My brothers, my other two younger, they were a lot younger at the time.
Mm.
Um, but from that, I knew that I could tell a narrative, a solid narrative. So when
Mm.
Steve was the one that approached me and said, "Look, let's do something together." And I was at a time when I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." But then it just like he pitched me something similar to what we were talking about the teen star thing. And I was like, I don't know. And I said, but wait, what about this? And then it just happened. Him and I just we made a great team, and
Mm.
he was he was helpful, I was helpful, we were collaborative, we were just a good team. And I I sent it to Dave. He was the first
Yeah.
person that well, besides my family, my parents and my brothers were the first one. And that's when I knew. Let me just backtrack. That's when I
Mm.
knew that there was something special because my older brother Rick and my brothers had no idea. They
Okay.
had not read a single word on a single page,
Mm.
which was the biggest, I would say, growth for me as a writer, but also like it was a big mature moment for me as
Mm.
just going from a kid to an adult. Like, look, you don't need people like carrying you along. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I did it myself with
Yeah.
Steve. I did it myself with no mom and dad in my ear, none of my brothers in my ear. I
Mm.
sat and they knew what I was doing. They knew I was writing something, but they had no idea. And once my older brother read it,
Yeah.
halfway through, and I'll maybe not give this away so early, but I will tell you
Right.
anyway. Halfway
Sure.
through, he was reading it and he got to like page 50
Okay.
and he stopped and he looked at me and he's just like, wow, this is such a great original story. That's what he said. I was like,
Yeah,
dude, keep reading. It gets
that's a
better.
great compliment.
And when he said that, that was my my final approval to myself that okay, you can do it. Okay, you did it. And now let's send it to Dave. And yeah, the rest is history.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know obviously, and it's actually the last question I've got prepared, but we've kind of covered, your film and iCarly, and those are like, two big, I suppose, like moments for you in 2022. But like, what would you like to go after or accomplish with the rest of this year?
That's funny because I remember when you emailed us asking about like iCarly, Para King, Second Chances, and my wider career.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, it's something I'm still thinking about right now. Because I'm not saying it all revolves on this film, but
Yeah.
and I don't want people know me. I don't want this to come across as a a bragging type of statement because it's not.
Sure.
But I've been doing so much for this movie that I've truthfully broke so many personal barriers for myself with this that two things. One, I want to do this again. That's for sure. But two, I almost feel like why I don't know. It's tough because again, I've been they said I put a lot of pressure on myself with this.
Yeah.
That's what other people have been saying. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a challenge. And I feel like I've
risen to it.
Yeah, maybe it was a challenge, but I feel like I accomplished them and I overcame the challenges. So, and again, people will be like, well, what is he talking about? Well, they'll know. I mean, people know just from seeing the articles that, I wrote the script.
Yeah.
I'm starring in it and I'm producing the movie with my parents.
Yeah.
It's a lot to handle,
Yeah.
and I
it's
truthfully on IMDb, you could see I'm the casting director. I casted the entire film. Everybody. I casted everybody. Everybody in that article were either, as I like to say, and I'll own this, I recruited my friends, my family, old co-stars, and some of my Hollywood friends. That's truthfully what this movie is. And it's everybody that I've met, worked with, known over the years. It's been a lot. It's really been a lot. And but with that being said, I know this is just the beginning. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, it's weird. It doesn't feel like I've done it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just feels like the beginning, which is like, it's insane. But I look at somebody like Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
He's one of my like personal, like not too many people know this, but he's like one of my personal inspirations just because he writes so many of his scripts, but he also writes a lot of other scripts that he's not, he's just, writer.
Yeah.
And he just has a lot of stories that he wants to tell. So not saying that me as a writer, like that's what I want, but I know personally, I'll just end with this, that everybody knows Dwayne Johnson. I mean, I'm wearing a Zoa hat right now. Dwayne Johnson, he produces all of his movies now. He stars
Yeah.
in a lot of them, and he's
Renaissance man. Yeah.
breaking barriers as an entrepreneur.
Mm.
I would only hope that I could see myself doing, things like that. I want to expand. I want to be an influence to a lot of people. I want to help people. I want to tell stories. Um I don't know. I truthfully just love entertaining people, going back to the very beginning, whether
Mm.
it's in front of the camera, behind the camera now, or
Yeah.
through my music with my brothers. I truthfully, I find a lot of passion and love and I would say therapy
Mm.
through just writing music and making
Yeah.
music. So I don't know if that answers your question, but again, I really haven't thought too far into it, but
Sure.
I know the fruits of this film are going to help give me an idea at least to what needs to be done next.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, best of luck, with the film. As you were saying, like I can feel your passion for it even through a Zoom call. Like, it's yeah, and from what you've been saying, you've been putting a lot of like work and time into it. So I hope everything works out the way you're hoping it will. And yeah, like just in general, all the best and take care and stay safe. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Connor. I really appreciate it, and I'll just tell you this: I'm so excited for what's to come. I'm so excited for you to see the movie, and yes, everything. The one thing I want people to take away from this entire interview
Mm.
is, if this is okay saying,
Go for it.
um, you just can't wait for people to tell you to do something, or you can't
Mm.
wait for people to wait for things for people for things to happen. You got to do it yourself.
Right.
You just have to. um you can, again, and I'll just leave it with this: Steve came to me, but I didn't have to listen. you
Sure.
know I was in a point where I kept telling my dad, I don't know, dad, I don't know, I'm really busy. But you know what? I knew it was what was calling my name.
Mm.
It was my calling, and it was my choice, that I just had to do it myself. I had
Mm.
to personally say, going back, I can't do it without my mom and dad. They're too busy. They have a lot going on. My
Mm.
brothers have a lot going on.
Yeah.
I had a lot going on as well, but it's, what do you really want? And
Mm.
this is what I wanted. I wanted to be in this position right now, being able to tell you everything I just told you. And it has really been a dream come true. Honestly, it really has. So my advice to people is, it may sound like easier said than done. It may sound like a lot of work. And even if it's not, just do it for yourself.
Mm.
And I found myself finding a lot of happiness throughout this process. Again, I'm having a lot of fun. And you said about, I hope it works out. I hope the final product shows it. But I will tell you this: as of now, I've been saying, um, God has literally been blessing our film
Mm.
every single day, because something comes up, and it's just magically, through our faith. I always pray about this. It's just, it works out. And
Mm.
there's been it has been such a joy, such a blessing, and it's been really special.
Mm.
And I can't wait to share it with the world. So, and that goes
Absolutely.
for everything. That goes for
Yeah.
not just this movie. It goes with the music that we're about to release. We just released a new song. It goes with, iCarly being streamed. It goes with my performance in Guardians of Justice, which is now on
Mm.
Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the things that are up in the air, that are about to happen, that are in the works. It goes with everything. I just can't wait to share it with the world, because that's what I feel like I was put here for.
Mm.
To help and just be a a positive voice for others. And
Mm.
I hope I, you know, can prove that slash an example of that.